Hey everybody, about to start the second episode of Between Two Ergs. Today's going to be a pretty awesome episode. We have Margaret joining me for our very first member spotlight. We're going to do a quick interview just to get to know Margaret a little bit. Before we get into that, I just want to give a huge thanks to Margaret for giving up her time to come on to this show that we're trying to get going here. And I'd like to also send a thanks out again to Jillian Goldie. Jillian gave up her time to bring out some equipment for us to help record this, because I have no clue what I'm doing. I've never kind of done this videography stuff before. I've never ran an interview before, and Margaret told me that she has never been interviewed before. So this is all new for everybody. It's been a blast so far, so I really hope that you enjoy the episode. Thanks. Hi everybody, welcome back to Between Two Ergs. This is Season 1, Episode 2, and today I am joined by Margaret, our very recent Spirit of the Open winner. So thank you, Margaret, for coming Between Two Ergs with me.
Thank you. Really glad to be here.
Awesome. So today's just going to be a really quick interview. We want to get to know Margaret, figure out who she is outside of the gym. We all know Margaret within the four walls of Fundy CrossFit, but who is Margaret and what kind of makes her tick? But before we get started, we are going to do the Fundy Wiggle. All right, Fundy CrossFit. So Margaret has 12 ping pong balls in this retrofitted Kleenex box on her lower back. She's going to have 45 seconds to try and get as many of those ping pong balls out as she can. If there are still ping pong balls left at the end of the 45 seconds, then we'll tack that on to her time. And yeah, we're going to make this a little competition. So if you're going to come on Between Two Ergs, then be ready to do the Fundy Wiggle. So in true CrossFit fashion, 10 seconds.
Okay. How many more? Oh my goodness. Okay.
One left. Get the last one.
Okay. Oh. I smushed it. Hold on.
That's okay.
I think I did smush it. It's stuck. Was it gone?
I think you got it out.
Did I?
It's out. That is the first attempt at the Fundy Wiggle. We have a time of 37 seconds. That's a pretty fast time to beat. So all you future Between Two Ergs guests, take note. Margaret is a good wiggler.
Don't break the box like I did.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. Awesome. Thank you for being good sports. It's a lot of fun. So we'll try and hop right into the interview. Just a little bit, kind of like what brings you to Fundy CrossFit? What initially got you to walk through these doors at this time?
For sure. So my partner Andrew and I, we moved here in July of last year, and in our move we decided that we really wanted to have a place that was both community oriented and to have a place of physical fitness to take care of ourselves, and we just kind of happened to just choose this place haphazardly and walked in and met one of the coaches and went through the on-ramp program and really loved it. Found it to be a really nice place with good people here, and we haven't looked back since. So I can't say I've enjoyed every single CrossFit workout, but I'm starting to notice a change now where I don't hate all of the workouts. So it's good.
That's usually the sign. When you no longer hate everything, maybe love that's like may never happen.
Yeah.
That's okay.
For sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're very happy that you and Andrea both came in and joined Fundy CrossFit, and you've certainly elevated our community quite a bit. So thank you so much. So on the note of not hating workouts, do you remember what maybe your first CrossFit WOD was?
I don't. I wish I actually, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I do. And it was a mixture of burpees and rowing, and it was back and forth between the two, which are probably two of my lesser favorites. One of which, of course, is my lesser favorite. But yeah, it was a mixture of burpees and rowing, and it was a long one. I think it was like 20 minutes.
Okay.
Of course, you make up these. It was so much worse than it actually was in your head when you had to do it. But.
Oh no, at the moment it's tough.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's sometimes the first one can really sit with us and sting quite a bit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So pivoting away from maybe CrossFit a little bit, maybe tell us a little bit about you. So you and Andrea are not originally from New Brunswick.
No.
So maybe like where are you from and what brought you out to the East Coast?
Absolutely. My partner Andrea is born and raised in Toronto. She's lived there her whole life, so it was a very big move for her, I think, well, for both of us, moving across the country. I was finishing up my school units for a program called Clinical Pastoral Education, which trains people to become spiritual care practitioners working in hospitals and other institutions like prisons and in the army as well. And happened to find this job on the website the day it closed and quickly put together an application, and here we are. So it kind of all happened very quickly. When I saw the application and saw the city where it was not a very difficult decision to apply because I had spent my summers here as a child. My paternal grandmother was born in Moncton, and we have some family in the area, so my parents come out here every summer, and we used to come out here all the time as kids. So I knew the area very well. I have experienced the hospitality and the warmth of Maritimers, so when the opportunity came, it wasn't a very tough decision to come out here, and we really have not regretted it at all.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
So you kind of touched a little bit that it was your job that kind of brought you to St. John. So I've heard from a lot of people that your job is very neat. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that and maybe what you do on a kind of a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, for sure. So it's kind of one of those jobs that people think is one thing, and it's actually kind of a little bit different than that. So spiritual care practitioners, they can vary in their role depending on where they are. So some people might call themselves chaplains, some people might call themselves pastoral care, and some people like myself would call themselves spiritual care. So when I walk into a room to meet a patient or a family, I don't walk in with any certain pretext in the sense of religion or an agenda. I am there largely for emotional support with whatever the circumstances are that are going on in their life, whether it's grief and loss, transitional stuff, just struggling with new diagnosis, that kind of thing. And sometimes those conversations involve a person's religion, but the context of spirituality is much bigger. We all have a spiritual life that's beyond just what we identify as religion. So how is a person's spirituality being affected by their current circumstances? And so I say this all the time at work, that I really feel like I have the best job in the whole hospital, because no one tells me how long I can spend with the patients. I can see them as many times as they need, and I get this beautiful picture of their life. And sometimes that's a life that's had a lot of pain and suffering, and other times it's a life that's had a lot of joy and triumph. And being able to listen to people's stories is something that I cherish about my job. It's a real privilege to walk into the room and have someone trust me with whatever's going on in their life. And I found spiritual care kind of through a bit of weeding through my own weeds in a way. I went through kind of a very difficult life change that wasn't really one that I wanted to go through, and after that happened, what I noticed was that people would come to me to talk about their own stuff that was going on, and in that time with them, it was healing for me to be able to walk with them and to to talk things through, to act as a mirror, to act as a, well, what would it be like if you did this, or what would it be like if you did this? And I realized that it was something that I loved. I loved that time, and I loved that people trusted me in that way, and I felt very honored by it. And so then the next part was, being kind of in this huge transition in my life. What do I want to do that I'm going to feel like at the end of my life I've done something meaningful? And I had taken one of the units that is for this training when I was doing my master's degree, and I had liked it enough, and it was fine, but I realized I actually want to go back and do more, and finished my units in a Scarborough Trauma Center there, and it was wonderful. I haven't looked back since, and for the first time in my life, it feels like this is what I'm meant to do. This is what I love to do every day, and I look forward to going to work. Some days, of course, like everyone, I'm tired and would love an extra Monday off, but at the same time, I feel so grateful that I get to do what I love. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's amazing. It's nice that you can kind of feel that kind of fulfillment in yourself, and it sounds like you're able to offer a lot to these people, but then they in turn kind of offer a lot back to you.
Well, thank you. It's interesting because when we talk about spirituality, we kind of talk about it in this little context of God, and yet so much of our society is outside of that. And so how can we as a society and on a microcosmic level, a healthcare system, look at what makes a whole person? Mm-hmm. And so the assessment that I use the acronym called SONG. So S stands for relationship to self, O stands for relationship to others, N stands for the relationship to nature or your environment around you, and G is relationship to God, and God beyond the context of just a theistic understanding, but what is divine in your life, what is sacred in your life. And I heard a psychiatrist talk about the sum of zero, the principle sum of zero, that if you multiply any of those as a part of your life by zero, it affects all of them. So if one of those things is out of whack for somebody in their life, the others are affected too. And so my hope that with every interaction I have is to provide people with an opportunity to see beyond just the circumstance they're in. And that's not always appropriate. When someone's going through the worst day of their life, to walk in and say, oh hey, let's make you feel a little bit better, that's not my role. It's actually to help them grieve. But in other contexts, it is to help maybe see things a little bit differently than they could before.
Yeah. I really like what you said there about the balance between the four aspects through song. I think that's really important to me personally, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I come in here to the gym, because that provides a lot of balance for me in my life. And like you say, if one's out of whack, the other one's kind of very quickly follows suit.
Absolutely.
And that might not be something that everyone kind of thinks about at the front of their mind so often, but it's quite often there. So
for sure.
Yeah, that's really neat that you're able to kind of play a role in that and help people find that balance.
And I think funding CrossFit and CrossFit in general, my hope in all gyms is that it provides a lot of those things together, because as I said earlier, coming here was community. We need each other. We're all interconnected. We're all we're doing this journey together. So how can we find ways to lift each other up? And that's something that I have come to love about the entire CrossFit community, is that it's for everyone. That I have on Instagram, and I watch the clips of the inclusivity that people have for all body types and all ability levels, and it's so moving to me that this, and I don't think that that's been so focused on as it has in CrossFit in any other place to the extent that I've seen. And then that's one of the main reasons I come, is because it's not just about the physical fitness for me, it's about the community, it's about lifting each other up, it's about finding that connection with another human being trying to figure out their own way through life.
Absolutely, and that long term, that's what's much more powerful for all of us.
Yeah.
That's great. Awesome. So I guess kind of like maybe through your position that you've come through, or just kind of in your life in general, if you maybe have had a role model that has stood out to you, maybe who they are and why, and how they've kind of shaped you for who Margaret is.
That's a great question. I think the first person that almost always comes to mind when I think about a role model is my maternal grandmother. Her name was Muriel. She died in 2015, and she was actually, I think she was quite a shy person naturally, and yet with us, with her grandchildren, she was always effusive in her love for us, and would never shy away from showing how much we mattered to her. And I think her showing that to us has shown me what's important in the world. Like, how we treat one another, how we show people we care is so important. And I think sometimes, and I'm a product of this too. We live in a bit of a stifled society that we don't want to tell people how much they mean to us. And so I take from her letters that she wrote of love and affection for us, and her hugs, and her just the love that she had. And you don't have to be famous, you don't have to have done these incredible things, but she did something incredible for me, which has provided this really nurturing place. And she was at every music recital, theater production, parent-teacher interview. She was there, and she showed up. And that's really, what more can you ask for from a role model? Is someone who loves you unconditionally and shows up.
Absolutely.
And that's that for me, what makes her my role model.
Absolutely. Yeah. I can see a lot of those traits already kind of rubbing off on you, the kind of the way that you approach your relationships here. So that's very nice to hear. So kind of thinking about you throughout your life, I'm wondering, like, when are you most satisfied in your life?
Yeah. When am I most satisfied? I think for a very long time I tried to be perfect. I have that perfectionism in me, and I don't say that to say that I am perfect. I say that to say that I'm not perfect, and then I wouldn't give myself space to be human, to not be exactly what I wanted to be in that moment. And I think what I've tried to do in my own life, and because I offer it to everyone else around me, is the opportunity to be human and to make mistakes and to try to figure out ways to fix it, or to make it better, or to learn from it and move on. So I think a good day for me is doing my best, putting forth the most presence I can for the people I work for at the hospital, staff and patients and families, and most importantly my family, my partner, but also to give everyone around me, including myself, the space to be human and it be okay to experience the fullness of that, and then not be afraid to have the range of emotion that goes with that, right? Because that's, in my own life, when I've had the worst experiences, for me, is where I've also had the greatest learning, but they weren't perfect. So I think a good day is reminding myself of my own humanness, and reminding myself of what I have that I'm so grateful for every day. One of my most favorites, I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot, I guess.
This is great.
One of my most favorite studies that I often refer to it was done, I'm pretty sure it was done by Harvard University, and it was done over the course of 100 years. Have you heard of this study?
I have not, no.
And it started at a time when the college was only had men studying there. But then what happened was, so they took a group of people, and then they started studying their families, and then the children and their ancestors, and they were looking at what makes a happy life. And it wasn't money, it wasn't a successful career, it was secure relationships, and it was the practice of gratitude. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, living a good life and feeling like I've accomplished something at the end of the day is reminding myself what it is I have, even though it's not always perfect, and that's okay. And
Absolutely. No, I think that's great. That's it's a really important reminder for people to have is that lying in the imperfection, there's a lot of beautiful things that if you just kind of spend the time and explore it a little bit, you'll learn a lot about yourself and those people around you, and what it means to live a full life. So I think you said that very well. I think we can all learn a lot from that. All right, so a little quick pivot.
Sure.
Wondering, what is your favorite movie of all time?
Oh, goodness. Favorite movie? Well, I'm a little bit of a sappy heart.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I have to say, it's probably one that many people would roll their eyes to, but it's one, actually I'd probably say two for different reasons.
Absolutely.
The first of which is The Sound of Music.
Okay.
And it's because I used to watch that movie with my sister on repeat, and like over and over and over again. I can sing all of the songs, I know every scene, and my sister would say the same thing, so that's probably one of them. And the second probably is Ever After with Drew Barrymore. She's one of my favorite actors. And I'm sappy and silly, but
nothing wrong with that. Everybody loves a sappy movie. I think you're to admit it. I think a lot of people may not admit it, but deep down.
I was like, I can't lie. I mean, I don't like watching horror or scary movies. We kind of have a little bit of banter going on in our household about choosing movies because my partner would definitely prefer the more thriller-based, and I'm like, oh, what's this rom-com?
Hey, nothing wrong with a good rom-com. You need a little bit here and there.
Cheesy.
Absolutely.
I'm alright with a little cheese.
Nothing wrong with that. That's awesome. So, what would be your favorite book then to read?
Good question. That's a really good question. I've read a lot of great books. Probably from my childhood was Anne of Green Gables. Loved those series. Read them many, many times. My mother actually, and this is actually really special to me now that I look back on it, but I was a preteen and a teenager when the Harry Potter series was coming out, and so my mother would actually read to us the books. The three of us would gather and she would read, and that went on all the way through up until I was in my last year of high school, where she'd read all of the books to us. So I have very fond memories of doing that with that book. Probably into adulthood, I'm trying to think. I've read some fantastic books. There's one that I read I think it's called David Brooks. The author's David Brooks, and it's called The Road to Character, and it looks at different character traits in people that we've known throughout history. And I really took a lot from that book. So from different stages, probably you asked me just one, but
absolutely. No, I want a list. If they're all good, I want to hear it. That's awesome. So the classic, like every interview question has, if you were to have 3 people to dinner, dead or alive, who would they be?
Three people.
Yeah, anyone in the world, be people that you've never met.
I think I would choose my grandmother, have her back, ask her some more questions about things I wish I had. I think I would choose, I might actually really enjoy a dinner with Barack Obama.
Hey.
I would love to talk with him. And probably Ellen DeGeneres. I would actually, she would be a lot of fun. And I would love to get to hear more of her stories. She's been a role model for me. I should have known I was gay a long time ago, watching Ellen DeGeneres at 4 o'clock in the afternoons after school. I had a huge crush on her.
Very well. That's awesome. Well,
so probably those 2.
That's a great dinner party. So Ellen DeGeneres, Barack Obama, and your grandmother. I kind of had a feeling when you answered the earlier question. I was like, I wonder if that would be a hint for who one of your dinner guests would be. So that would be. I'd like to be a fly on the wall for that dinner.
Me too. I wonder how that would go with my grandmother, but
Absolutely. Awesome. So I'm going to pivot back to CrossFit just for a second, because I know a lot of people out there really want to know. So when you come to a class, often you and Andrea are here at the same time. How competitive does it get between the two of you outside of the gym?
No, it's really not. I mean, sometimes I'll do a, hey, what was your time? And then she'll be like, well, what was your time? But that's pretty much it. It's an opportunity for us to be together and do something that we both really like and appreciate. So for us, it's quality time. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
No, I think I'm far more competitive with myself than I am with anybody else.
Certainly.
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of building on that, I'm kind of wondering, one of the things that we kind of get lost in CrossFit is kind of like that we're here to work on really foundational things and it's long, kind of slow improvements for kind of that long-term gain. So I'm wondering if like maybe you envision a year from now at Fundy CrossFit, what would you consider kind of like a success for you?
Yeah. You know, I would certainly love to see some of the movements that I can't do now improving or at the stage where I can do them. I think mostly for me with CrossFit is an improvement in my overall quality of health. You know, I've had shoulder and back issues in the past and they're slowly starting to go away, and I wanted to improve my cardio so that I'm a healthy person 20, 30 years from now. So I think that's my goal now, not so much setting being able to do a muscle up or a ring muscle up or, you know, even a pull up, but just the improvements to my health, that I'm taking care of myself, because I can't do anything else if I'm not healthy.
Absolutely, and that's what's important.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Would you rather questions?
Okay.
Quick answers.
Okay, quick answers.
Would you rather flip a coin for a chance to win $20 or immediately win $10?
Immediately win $10.
Okay. Would you rather be reborn in the past or in the future?
Future.
Would you rather give up brushing your teeth or your hair?
Hair.
Would you rather be the funniest person in the room or the smartest person in the room?
Funniest.
There you have it. Would you rather immediately win $10?
Yep.
Be reborn in the future?
Yep.
She would give up brushing her hair.
Yep.
You're welcome, Andrea. And she would be the funniest?
Yes.
In the room.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Margaret, for joining me on this Between Two Ergs episode. This was kind of the first one, so that was great. I really appreciate you coming on. So to close it out, you have the last word, Margaret.
Thanks.